The truck rumbled down the road, its engine a familiar hum, but the silence inside was deafening. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. I didn't know where I was going, or even if I cared. The streets outside the truck window were empty, the world as quiet as my apartment had been. I passed by familiar landmarks, places I'd once visited with Karen or Emma, places that now felt like ghosts. The night was cool, the kind of chill that slips into your bones and refuses to leave. I rolled down the window a crack, letting the breeze bite at my face. It helped clear my head, just a little, but not enough. I didn't know why I'd left. Not really. Part of me had known for a while that it was coming. I'd always known I'd be alone, but this felt different. The finality of it, the weight of it. My daughter had moved on. She had her life, her family. Jason had his promotion. I was just the afterthought, the text, the chore. Please heat up the leftovers. I made a left onto a side street, then another. No destination, just the road ahead. The headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating nothing but the occasional street sign or the shadow of a passing tree. My mind kept drifting, replaying everything I had just left behind. The apartment, my life. It was all slipping away, fading into the rearview mirror, and I couldn't stop it. But I didn't want to stop it either. The truck veered off the road, and I pulled into a small diner parking lot. I hadn't meant to stop here. It just felt right. Maybe I needed to talk to someone, though I couldn't imagine who. The place was nearly empty, save for a couple hunched over their coffee at the counter. I stepped out of the truck and walked inside. The bell above the door jingled as I entered, and the waitress behind the counter looked up. She was young, maybe in her 20s, her hair tied back in a messy bun. Her name tag read Lena. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "What can I get you?" "Coffee," I said, my voice hoarse. It wasn't until the word left my mouth that I realized how much I needed it. The warmth, the bitter taste. Maybe it would do something for the emptiness gnawing at my stomach. "Coming right up," she said, and I took a seat at the counter, my bag still slung over my shoulder. The diner smelled of grease and old coffee, but in a strange way it was comforting, familiar, a place for lost souls maybe. Lena poured the coffee and slid it across the counter toward me. I thanked her with a nod, then took a sip. Hot, strong, just what I needed. I didn't know how long I sat there, staring into the cup, lost in thought. The world outside was still, and inside, the noise of the diner was muted, like a background hum. It felt like I was on the edge of something. A precipice. I wasn't sure what it was, or what I was looking for. I just knew I didn't want to be alone anymore. "You visiting or just passing through?" Lena's voice broke into my thoughts, soft but direct. I glanced at her, surprised to realize she was talking to me. I don't know," I said, then felt stupid for saying it out loud. "I guess I'm passing through." "Everything okay?" she asked. Her eyes were kind, but there was a weariness in them, a recognition of something. Maybe she saw a bit of herself in me, or maybe she saw the same loneliness that had taken root in me over the years. Either way, I didn't answer right away. Instead, I took another sip of coffee. "I used to have a family," I said finally. "A wife, a daughter. I thought I'd be enough for them. But, I guess I wasn't." Lena nodded, as if she'd heard the story 100 times before. "It's tough," she said. "Life doesn't always go the way we think it will." "No," I muttered. "It doesn't." I finished the coffee, slowly, savoring each drop. It was the only thing that seemed to make sense right now. The warmth, the bitter taste, the quiet of the diner. The world outside didn't matter anymore. I didn't matter anymore. "Thanks for the coffee," I said, standing up and placing a few bills on the counter. "Keep the change." Lena gave me a small, sympathetic smile. "Take care of yourself," she said, and for the first time, in what felt like forever, I realized someone cared, even if just a little. I walked back to the truck, the night air cold against my skin. I didn't have any place to go, but I couldn't stay in the diner forever. The road stretched out before me, the headlights illuminating the empty path ahead. Maybe it didn't matter where I went, maybe the road itself was enough. I slid into the driver's seat and started the truck, the engine roaring to life. The hum of the motor was a familiar comfort, the only thing that made me feel like I was moving, like I had a purpose. Even if it was just to drive, to leave, to forget. The truck hit the road again, the tires humming against the pavement. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know if it mattered. All I knew was that I couldn't go back. Not to the apartment, not to the empty space that had once been my life. The headlights illuminated the road ahead, but the path felt endless, stretching out in front of me like a horizon that would never quite meet the sky. And maybe that was okay. Maybe I wasn't supposed to find an answer. Maybe I was just supposed to keep moving, keep driving, and see where it took me. And so I did. I drove through the night, through the quiet streets, through the places that didn't know my name. Maybe one day, I'd find somewhere to stop, somewhere to rest. But for now, the road was enough. It had to be. It was past midnight when I heard the key in the lock. I was sitting in the dark living room, in my recliner, duffel bag at my feet, waiting. The door swung open. Emma came in first, laughing at something Jason had said. Behind them, my ex-wife Linda, and Emma's younger brother, David. A family celebration, complete without me. Emma hit the light switch. They all froze. I watched their faces change. Confusion first, then recognition, then something else. Something I couldn't quite name. "Dad?" Emma said. "What are you doing sitting in the dark?" "Waiting," I said. Jason stepped forward, his tie loosened, his face flushed with wine and success. He was a handsome guy, I'd give him that. Tall, well-groomed, the kind of man who looked good in a suit, the kind of man who knew it. "Frank, we brought you a doggy bag. Prime rib, your favorite." He held up a white paper bag like it was a peace offering. I didn't move. "Frank," Linda said, her voice sharp with that particular tone she'd perfected during our marriage. "What's wrong with you?" "Nothing's wrong," I said. I stood up, picked up my duffel bag. "I'm leaving." "Leaving?" Emma laughed, but it sounded nervous. "Dad, what are you talking about? You live here." "Not anymore." I walked past them, heading for the door. David blocked my path. My youngest, 28 years old, worked in tech, barely spoke to me except when he needed money. "Dad, come on, don't be dramatic." "Move," I said. "Frank, this is ridiculous," Linda said. "So we went to dinner without you. You're acting like a child." I turned to look at her. Really look at her. We'd been divorced for 10 years, but she still showed up for family events, still acted like she had a say in my life. Her hair was shorter now, dyed to cover the grey. She wore expensive clothes, paid for by her new husband's money. She looked good. She always looked good. "A child," I repeated. "You know what a child does, Linda. A child expects his parents to take care of him, feed him, include him, love him." "We do love you," Emma said, but her voice was small. "No," I said. "You tolerate me. There's a difference." Jason stepped forward again, his corporate smile in place. "Frank, let's talk about this. You're upset, I get it. We should have invited you. That was wrong. You think this is about dinner?" I looked at each of them. This is about every birthday party I wasn't told about. Every holiday plan made without asking if I had plans. Every text message that went unanswered. Every phone call that lasted 30 seconds because you were busy. "Dad, we have lives," David said. "I know," I said, "and I'm not in them." I pushed past David out into the hallway. Emma followed me. "Dad, wait. Where are you going to go?" "I'll figure it out." "This is your apartment." I stopped, turned back. "You want it. It's yours. Deed's on the kitchen table. I signed it over to you this afternoon." Her mouth fell open. "What?" You've been hinting about it for years. How this place would be perfect for you and Jason. How you could renovate it. Make it nice. Well, now you can. Jason's eyes lit up. I saw it. That flash of greed. That calculation. He tried to hide it, but not fast enough. Frank, you can't just give away your home, Linda said. It's mine to give, and I just did. I walked to the elevator, pressed the button. Dad, please, Emma said, don't do this. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. I already did, I said, and stepped inside. As the doors closed, I saw them standing there in the hallway. My family. Looking confused and angry and, underneath it all, relieved. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. The elevator descended slowly. I counted the floors. 12, 11, 10, each number lighting up like a countdown to freedom. In the parking garage, I walked past Mrs. Chen's sedan, past the Martinez family's minivan, past empty spaces where people were out living their lives. My truck started on the first try. I drove. The fire crackled in the stove, the only sound in the cabin besides the occasional creak of the wood as it settled. The warmth from the flames spread through the room, but it did little to thaw the cold feeling that had settled in my chest. I sat in the chair by the fire, staring into the flames, but not really seeing them. My mind was elsewhere, circling around the same thoughts that had been with me for the last few days, for the last few years. I hadn't planned on leaving. Not like this. Not without warning, without a word. But sometimes, the weight of everything gets too much. The silence in the apartment, the missed calls, the expectation that I'd just keep existing in the background of everyone else's life. It all built up, and I needed to escape, to breathe, to be somewhere where no one could find me, where no one could expect anything of me. The cabin was as quiet as the night outside. No cars, no people, just the whisper of the wind through the trees. It felt like a different world, a world where I could finally exist without the constant pressure of family, of obligations, of responsibilities that weren't mine to bear. I opened my laptop again, the dull glow of the screen illuminating the room. I didn't need to check the numbers again. I knew they were fine. What I needed now was time to think, to figure out what I was supposed to do next. I pulled up the encrypted files, the ones I'd kept hidden for years. Some people might call it hoarding, but to me, it was survival. A little nest egg tucked away in places no one would ever find. I scrolled through the documents, looking over the list of assets I'd moved around in the last few years. There was enough to live on, enough to keep the illusion that I was still part of the world, even if the world had moved on without me. The warmth pushed back against the chill in the air, but it couldn't fight the colder feeling inside me. What was I doing here? What was I really running from? The cabin was quiet, too quiet, and it pressed in on me like the silence of the apartment, only now I was the one choosing it. A knock at the door broke through my thoughts. I stood up quickly, my hand instinctively reaching for the gun I kept by the door. Old habits, I guess. My heart skipped for a moment and I took a breath before walking over to the door. I didn't know what to expect. The last thing I needed was some stranger showing up, poking around. But when I opened the door, there was no one there. Instead, a cardboard box sat on the porch, the faint glow of the porch light casting shadows over it. I bent down and picked it up, feeling the weight of it in my hands. No address, no note, just a box. I brought it inside and set it down on the table, wondering if it was a mistake to open it. But something inside me told me I had to. I had to see what it was. I slit the tape with my pocket knife and peeled back the flaps. Inside, wrapped in crumpled brown paper, was a thick folder. I pulled it out and opened it. The first thing I saw was a photograph. It was a black and white picture of Karen, taken years ago, probably at some family gathering. She was smiling, looking up at the camera with that smile I'd loved so much. The next few pages were filled with documents, hospital bills, old bank statements, notes from her doctors, the very things I'd buried in the back of my mind, things I didn't want to remember. My breath caught in my throat. Why was this here? I wasn't sure what to make of it, but it felt like more than a simple reminder of the past. I thumbed through the rest of the folder, seeing familiar names and dates, but there was something else there, something new. At the very back, there was a legal document, an unsigned contract. I didn't have to read the whole thing to know what it was. It was a trust agreement, a paper trail I had never signed. A deal with someone. But who? The air in the cabin felt thicker now, heavier. The warmth of the fire did nothing to stave off the tension building in my chest. Who had sent this? What was this all about? I grabbed my phone from the table and scrolled through my contacts. Pete would have been the first person to call, but I hadn't spoken to him in years. I could try Bill, my lawyer, but I wasn't sure I wanted him involved in this just yet. I stared at the folder for a moment longer, then shoved it back into the box. Whatever this was, I wasn't ready to deal with it. Not now. Not when I was still trying to figure out why I'd even left in the first place. I moved the box to the far corner of the room and sat back down by the fire. The flickering light of the flames seemed to dance in the darkness, but it didn't bring me any comfort. I thought about Karen, about the way things used to be before everything fell apart. Before her illness, before my retirement, before Emma and Jason became strangers to me. I thought about the life we'd built together, about how it all seemed so simple back then. We'd have our family, our home, our future, but nothing was ever as simple as it seemed. The fire crackled, and I leaned back in my chair, eyes closed. The night outside was still, and I was alone in this cabin with my thoughts. But there was something else now, something creeping at the edges of my mind. The feeling that I wasn't as alone as I thought. I didn't know who had sent that box or what it meant, but I had a feeling it was going to change everything. And that, more than anything, was what I was running from. The fire crackled, the flames dancing in front of me as I settled back into my chair, the weight of everything pressing down on me. Whatever came next, I had no idea, but for the first time in a long while, I was afraid. The silence of the cabin pressed in again, but it was different now. It wasn't just the stillness of a remote place. It was the silence of something deeper, something I couldn't yet understand, and I didn't know if I was ready to face it. But I knew one thing for sure. I was in this now, whether I liked it or not. Pete's cabin was exactly as I remembered it. Log walls, stone fireplace, well water, propane stove, solar panels on the roof for electricity, a woodpile the size of a small car. Paradise. I spent the first week doing nothing, just existing, chopping wood, walking the property, sitting on the porch with coffee and watching the sun rise over the mountains. No phone calls, no texts, no demands. Peace. The property was beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. 40 acres of forest, a stream running through the back section, deer trails crisscrossing everywhere. I'd wake up at dawn and watch the mist rise off the water. I'd eat simple meals, eggs and toast, canned soup, sandwiches. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't waiting for anything. Wasn't expecting a call that wouldn't come. Wasn't hoping for an invitation that would never arrive. I was just here. But by the second week, the anger started seeping back in. I'd wake up at 3 a.m, thinking about that text message. Don't let the leftovers go to waste. Like I was their servant, their placeholder. I'd think about Emma's wedding 5 years ago, how she'd seated me at a table in the back with her college roommates' grandparents, people I'd never met. How Jason's parents had sat at the head table, right next to the bride and groom. How Linda had made a speech about what a wonderful mother she'd been. How proud she was of Emma. Not a word about me. I'd think about David's graduation from MIT. How I'd paid for half his tuition, taken out loans I was still paying off. How he'd thanked everyone in his speech except me, his professors, his friends, his mother, not his father. I'd think about Christmas 3 years ago, how I'd driven 2 hours in a snowstorm to bring presents, how they'd already opened everything by the time I arrived. How they'd said, "Oh, Dad, we thought you weren't coming." How my gifts had sat unopened in the corner while we ate reheated turkey. The anger wasn't hot. It was cold, calculating. The kind of anger that doesn't explode. The kind that plans. My phone rang one morning. Bill, my lawyer. "Frank, I reviewed those documents you sent. The deed transfer is legal, but I'd advise against it. Already done." "Then let me give you some other advice. Get a new will. Immediately." "Already on my list?" "Good, because the one you have now leaves everything to your kids equally. If you've had a falling out, you need to address that." "What are my options?" "Depends. You could disinherit them entirely. Or you could set up conditions. Trust funds with stipulations, delayed disbursements, make them work for it." I smiled. "Tell me more." We talked for 2 hours. By the end, I had a plan. Bill explained the legalities carefully. A will with conditions wasn't unusual. People did it all the time. Parents who wanted their kids to finish college before inheriting. Grandparents who wanted grandchildren to reach a certain age. Spouses who wanted to ensure their partner was cared for before assets went to children. My conditions would be simple: proof of a meaningful relationship, documentation, phone records, visit logs, witness testimony. "It's airtight," Bill said, "as long as you're clear about what constitutes meaningful. We'll need to define that." "Weekly contact," I said, "in person or by phone. Real conversations, not text messages. At least 30 minutes, for 1 full year. And if they don't meet the conditions, everything goes to charity, scholarship fund in my wife's name." Bill was quiet for a moment. "Frank, are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." "Okay, I'll draw up the papers." After we hung up, I sat on the porch and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. Stars began to appear, more stars than I'd seen in years. The city blocked them out. Up here, they were everywhere. I thought about Karen, what she'd say about all this. She'd probably tell me I was being too harsh. That family was family, no matter what. That forgiveness was important. But Karen had never been ignored. Never been treated like an afterthought. She'd died surrounded by people who loved her, who'd shown up every single day. I hadn't been that lucky. 3 weeks after I left, I drove into town. Small place, 1-stop light, a diner, a post office, a general store. I parked outside the diner and went in. The waitress, a woman about my age with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a ponytail, brought me coffee without asking. "You're new," she said. "Staying at Pete Garrison's place." "Ah, Pete's good people. Friend of yours?" "Army buddy." She nodded, poured more coffee. "I'm Jean. Let me know if you need anything." "Actually, I do need something. Internet access. Library around here. 15 miles south. Opens at 10. I thanked her, ate my eggs and bacon, and drove south. The library was small but had decent computers. I logged in and started digging. Jason Carter, age 34, regional director at Prestige Financial Group, salary $180,000 a year, plus bonuses. Not bad. But interesting, his promotion had come 3 months ago, not last week. The dinner celebration was late. Why? I kept digging. Social media. Jason's LinkedIn showed the promotion in July. His Facebook showed posts about it back then too. Congratulations from coworkers. Celebration photos. But none from Emma. I checked Emma's Facebook. Nothing about Jason's promotion until last week. One post. So proud of my amazing husband. Celebrating tonight. 3 months late. I opened a new tab. Pulled up the county records database. Property records specifically. The apartment I'd given Emma. The deed transfer had gone through. But there was something else. A lien filed against the property. Dated 2 months ago. $50,000. Creditor, Prestige Financial Group. Jason's employer had a lien on my apartment. I sat back, mind racing. Emma didn't know. Couldn't know. She'd never agreed to that, which meant Jason had done it behind her back. I pulled up more records, credit reports, public filings, anything I could access legally. And there it was. Jason Carter had gambling debts, casinos in Atlantic City, online betting accounts. He'd been financing it through cash advances and personal loans. The promotion dinner wasn't a celebration, it was a distraction. And I'd just handed him a $300,000 apartment. I printed everything. Page after page of evidence. Bank statements, property records, credit reports, photos from social media showing Jason at casinos when he'd told Emma he was working late. The librarian, a young woman with glasses and a friendly smile, helped me organize it all. "Research project?" she asked. "Something like that." "Must be important." "It is." I drove back to the cabin with a folder full of ammunition, but I didn't use it yet. Not yet. First, I needed to see how far this went. I hired a private investigator, found one online, guy named Terry who specialized in infidelity and financial fraud. He wasn't cheap, but I wasn't worried about money. "I need surveillance," I told him over the phone. "My son-in-law, I think he's hiding something." "What kind of something?" "Gambling, debt, maybe more." "I can do that. 2 weeks full surveillance, $5,000. "Deal." Terry was good, better than good. Within a week, he had photos of Jason at 3 different casinos, meeting with men in expensive suits who looked like they could break bones for a living, withdrawing cash from ATMs at 2 in the morning. He also had something I hadn't expected, photos of Jason with another woman. She was young, mid-20s, blonde, pretty. They were at a bar, sitting close, his hand on her thigh. Another photo showed them leaving together, walking to a hotel. I stared at those photos for a long time. Emma deserved to know. But if I told her now, she'd think I was just being vindictive. She'd think I was trying to ruin her marriage because I was angry. I needed her to discover it herself, or at least to think she had. I called Terry back. "Can you send these photos to my daughter? Anonymously?" "From where?" "Make it look like a concerned friend, someone who saw them together and thought she should know." "I can do that." "Do it." Emma called me 4 days later. I was outside, splitting wood. The axe came down clean, splitting the log in 2. Satisfying. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost didn't answer, but something made me check. "Emma." I wiped sweat from my forehead and answered. "Yeah?" "Dad." Her voice was small, broken. "What's wrong? Can I come see you?" "When?" "Now. I'm already on my way." I looked at the woodpile, at the axe in my hand, at the cabin behind me. "How'd you find me?" "David told me. Is it okay?" "Yeah, it's okay." She arrived 3 hours later, driving a car I didn't recognize, probably a rental. Her face was red and puffy, eyes swollen from crying. I met her on the porch. She collapsed into my arms. "He's cheating on me," she sobbed. "Someone sent me photos, him with another woman." I held her, said nothing. 3 years, Dad. We've been married 3 years and he's been cheating on me." "I'm sorry." "Are you?" She pulled back, looked at me. "You never liked him." "No, I didn't." "Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened?" She didn't answer. We both knew the truth. I led her inside, made her tea, let her cry. Eventually, she said, "I don't know what to do." "Do you still love him?" "I don't know. I thought I did, but maybe I just loved the idea of him. The successful husband, the nice apartment, the perfect life. There's no such thing as a perfect life. I know that now." We sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled. Outside, wind rustled through the trees. "Dad," Emma said finally, "why did you leave?" "You know why." "No, I mean really. Was it just the dinner?" "It was everything. The dinner was just the last straw. I'm sorry. I know. I should have been better, should have called more, visited more. I just got so caught up in my own life that I forgot about you. You didn't forget. You chose not to remember. There's a difference. She flinched. That's harsh. It's true. Yeah, it is. We talked for hours, really talked, for the first time in years. She told me about her job, her friends, her fears. I told her about the cabin, about Pete, about what it felt like to finally have silence. Do you hate us? She asked as the sun was setting. No, I'm just tired of being invisible. You're not invisible. Then why did it take you 3 years to visit? She didn't have an answer. Emma stayed for 2 days. We cooked together, walked the property, sat by the fire. She asked questions about her mother, about their childhood, about things she'd forgotten or never known. On the second night, she said, I'm leaving him. Good. I'm scared. You should be. Being alone is scary, but being with the wrong person is scarier. When did you get so wise? When I had time to think. She laughed, but it was sad. I wasted so much time. Then don't waste any more. Emma left Jason the following week. She called me from a hotel. I did it, she said. Packed my stuff while he was at work, left my key on the counter. How do you feel? Terrified, relieved, angry, all of it. That's normal. He's been calling non-stop, saying he can explain, that it's not what it looks like. What did you say? Nothing. I blocked his number. Good. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for letting me figure this out. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, but you could have rubbed it in. Could have said, I told you so. You didn't. Wouldn't have helped. She was quiet for a moment. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. After we hung up, I sat on the porch and watched the stars. The night was cold, autumn turning to winter, but I didn't mind. Things were starting to shift, starting to change. David called the next day. Dad, Emma told me everything, about Jason, about the photos. Yeah. Did you know? Some of it. Why didn't you tell her? She wouldn't have believed me. She had to see it herself. He sighed. You're probably right, but still. How are you, David? Me? I'm fine. Are you? Silence. Then, not really. Work's been tough. I got passed over for a promotion. My girlfriend and I broke up. I've been feeling pretty lost. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. You should come visit. The cabin's big enough for 2. Really? Really. He came the following weekend, brought a case of beer and a worn-out expression. We spent the weekend working on the cabin, fixed a loose board on the porch, cleaned out the gutters, chopped wood, simple physical work that didn't require talking. On Sunday night, we sat by the fire with our beers. Dad, David said, I'm sorry. For what? For not being around, for taking you for granted, for choosing Mum's version of events over yours. What do you mean? He told me everything. How Linda had poisoned them against me. How she'd said I didn't want to be involved. How she'd intercepted calls and emails. How she'd made them believe I'd chosen my solitude over my family. I listened, feeling that cold anger settle deeper. I should have questioned it, David said. Should have called you myself. But I was young and stupid, and I believed her. You were a kid. Kids believe their parents. I'm not a kid anymore. No, you're not. Can we start over? We never stopped, David. You just forgot I was here. I won't forget again. We'll see. He looked hurt, but I didn't soften. Words were easy. Actions mattered. The drive back was quiet. Emma kept her hands firmly on the wheel, her eyes focused on the road ahead. She wasn't crying, wasn't saying anything, just driving. I could tell she was still processing everything. The coffee shop meeting with Jason had been the final act of a long, painful drama. She'd gotten her words out, told him exactly what he deserved to hear. Yet, Despite the finality of it, something in the air still felt unsettled. I didn't know if I should say anything or just let her be. She didn't need my advice, not after everything that had happened. What was there to say? It's over didn't feel like enough. It should have been enough for her to feel a sense of relief, but instead, there was a weight that had settled over her that hadn't been there before. I glanced over at her, her profile barely visible in the dim light of the car. She wasn't smiling, but she wasn't frowning either. She just looked tired, the kind of tired that goes beyond sleep. "You all right?" I asked, my voice quiet, like I was afraid of breaking the stillness. She nodded, though the movement was almost imperceptible. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "Everything." Her voice sounded far away, like she was talking to herself more than me. I thought when it was all done, I'd feel this relief, I guess. But I don't. I just feel nothing. "Sometimes the end of something doesn't feel like relief," I said. "It feels like emptiness." She looked at me, her eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "You think I'm just supposed to forget it all? Let it go and move on?" "No, I don't think you can just forget, but eventually you'll start to see that you're better off without him. You'll start to feel lighter, like you said." She didn't respond, and the silence stretched between us again. I wasn't sure what she wanted from me, what she needed. I just knew that she had to be allowed to process it her way, on her time. We didn't talk much more on the way back to the apartment. When we pulled up in front, Emma parked the car, but didn't get out right away. She just sat there, staring ahead, her hands gripping the steering wheel. "Do you want me to stay with you tonight?" I asked. "I can stay on the couch. You don't have to be alone." She shook her head slowly. "I'm okay, I just need some time." "All right," I said quietly, not pushing her. I wanted to stay, to make sure she was okay, but I knew she needed space. "Call me if you need anything. I'm just a phone call away." She nodded, and for the first time since the meeting with Jason, her lips curved into a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Thanks, Dad." I gave her a moment before getting out of the car. The evening air was cool, and the street was quieter than usual. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down, just like when I'd left the apartment. The emptiness of the night, the uncertainty of what came next. I walked up to the door of the apartment, unlocked it, and stepped inside. It was strange being back here. It felt wrong. I'd been gone for only a few days, but it already felt like a lifetime. The apartment still had that same quiet, that same feeling of abandonment. It was as if everything inside had been frozen in time. I went to the kitchen and opened the fridge. There was some leftover food from the last time Emma had brought me something. Probably from the night she'd dropped off the pasta she'd asked me to heat up. The fridge felt like a relic now. Something from a past life. It was so much easier to exist in the cabin, to be alone in the woods, where nothing had expectations of me. I took a beer from the fridge and cracked it open, leaning against the counter as I took a sip. The coolness of the beer settled in my throat, but it didn't numb the rest of me. It didn't help with the knot that had settled in my chest, the one that seemed to always tighten when I thought about my daughter, about how much she had been through, about how little I had been able to do to help her. I looked around the apartment, eyes wandering over the empty space, the couch, the table where we used to have family meals, the walls that had been so full of Karen's art, and the photographs we'd taken over the years. Now everything felt bare. It was as if everything I had left of her, of us, had been stripped away in a matter of days. My phone buzzed on the counter, and I picked it up. It was a text from Emma. "Thanks, Dad, for everything." I stared at the screen for a moment. The words were simple, but they hit me harder than I'd expected. She was okay. She would be okay. But I wasn't sure I was. Not yet. Not after everything that had happened. I replied with a simple, "Anytime." Then I dropped the phone back onto the counter and walked over to the living room. I needed to think. I needed to understand what had brought me here, what was pulling me toward this life I hadn't planned. Everything felt like it was spiraling out of my control. One moment, I was a man with a family, a job, a life that seemed set, and the next, I was a man alone, driving up into the woods to hide from it all. Maybe I'd expected Emma's separation from Jason to bring closure. I'd hoped that once that chapter was closed, once she was free from him, we could both move on. But the truth was, I didn't know where to go from here. I didn't know what the next step was. I had no answers. I wasn't even sure I had the strength to keep searching for them. I sat down on the couch, the old cushions sagging beneath me. I looked at the empty walls and wondered if I would ever feel whole again, or if I was always meant to be drifting, just a shadow of who I used to be, caught between past and future, between the memories of what was and the uncertainty of what could be. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have a plan, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like a relief. I closed my eyes, listening to the quiet around me, and let the weight of the day settle in. Emma was safe, she was free, and maybe that was all I could do for her. Maybe that was enough, for now at least. Linda showed up at the cabin 6 months after Emma's divorce was finalized. I was on the porch, drinking coffee and reading the paper, when I heard a car coming up the driveway. A BMW, silver, expensive. She got out wearing designer clothes and sunglasses that probably cost more than my truck. "Frank," she said, climbing the porch steps. "Linda, we need to talk." "About what?" "About what you're doing to this family." I set down my coffee. "What am I doing?" "You're poisoning the kids against me, turning them against me." "I haven't said a word." "You don't have to. They won't return my calls. They won't answer my emails. David won't even come to family dinners anymore." "Maybe that's because they finally figured out who you are." Her face went red. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. I am their mother. I raised them. I was there for them when you were too busy working." "You were there," I agreed. "You were there telling them I didn't care, that I didn't want to see them, that I was too busy for them. That's not—" "David told me everything, Linda, about the calls you intercepted, the emails you deleted, the lies you told." She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were hard. "I protected them." "From what?" "From you, from your coldness, your distance, your complete inability to connect with anyone." "Is that what you told yourself, to justify cutting me out of their lives?" "You cut yourself out. You chose work over family. Every single time. I worked to provide for you, for them. I worked 60-hour weeks so you could have your nice house and your nice car and your nice life. And what good did that do? You gave us money, Frank. Not love, not attention, just money. I gave you everything I had. Everything except yourself." We stared at each other. "Why are you really here, Linda?" She looked away. "They're talking about cutting me off, completely. No more holiday visits, no more family dinners. Emma won't even tell me where she's living." "And you think I can fix that?" "You could tell them to forgive me." "No. Frank, no. You spent 10 years poisoning them against me. You made them believe I didn't love them, that I didn't want them. And now that they know the truth, you want me to bail you out. I'm their mother. And I'm their father. Didn't stop you from erasing me. I made mistakes. You made choices, deliberate, calculated choices. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" She didn't answer. "I think you should leave," I said. "Frank, now." She put her sunglasses back on, walked to her car. Before getting in, she turned back. "You're a cold man, Frank. You always have been." "Maybe, but at least I'm honest about it." She drove away. I sat back down, picked up my coffee. It had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. The hug lasted longer than I expected. The warmth of their embrace felt good, but it also made me realize just how much had been lost and how much was still fragile between us. There was a lot of time to make up for, a lot of damage to repair, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like there was hope. Emma pulled back first, her face a little flushed but smiling. "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on us, for being willing to try." David clapped me on the back, a bit harder than necessary, but I didn't mind. "We're not going to make the same mistakes again," he said, his voice firm. "I swear." I nodded, not sure what to say. Words were hard, especially now, when everything felt new again. This new version of us, this fragile possibility of a family that could be different. But I didn't need to say much. I just needed to be here. With them. With both of them, who were now adults, with their own lives, their own paths, but somehow still tangled with mine. We finished cleaning up, moving around each other in a comfortable silence. The kind that only comes when you've known each other a lifetime. The kitchen looked different now, quieter, emptier, but there was a calmness to it. A stability that hadn't been there before. Once the dishes were done, we moved to the porch, and I took a seat in my old chair. The night was cool, the stars visible through the pine trees surrounding the cabin. It was one of those perfect nights, where the air smelled of pine and earth, and everything felt still. David cracked open a couple of beers, handing one to me and one to Emma. The clink of the bottles was the only sound for a moment, as we each took a sip. "You know, when you first left," Emma said, her voice low, thoughtful, "I was angry at you, for leaving us, for disappearing. But as the months went on, I realized that maybe you needed to do that. Maybe we all needed you to." "I didn't mean to leave," I said quietly. "I just couldn't stay. Not the way things were. I needed space, to breathe, to figure things out." "I get it," Emma said, her eyes soft. "I do. I just wish I'd understood that earlier. We all made a lot of mistakes. I pushed you away because I thought you were abandoning us. But the truth was, you were just as lost as we were." David nodded. "We weren't perfect either. We were angry, bitter. All of us were just so wrapped up in our own shit that we didn't see what you were going through." I took a long sip of my beer, looking out at the dark expanse of trees. "We all hurt each other, didn't we?" "Yeah," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But maybe that's part of healing. You can't fix what's broken until you admit it's broken in the first place." "I don't think I could have said it better," David added, leaning back in his chair, his hands resting on the armrests. "This family's been broken for a long time, but we're still here, we're still together, and that matters." There was a long pause, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. Like there was room for me again. I didn't know how long it would last, or if everything would ever truly be fixed, but I was starting to believe that maybe it didn't have to be perfect. Maybe it just had to be real. Emma looked up at me, her eyes serious. "Dad, I want to ask you something. Anything. Do you think we could all come together again? As a family? Really? Truly?" I took a deep breath. The question hung in the air, as if the answer could reshape everything for all of us. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I think it's worth trying." David shot me a look, his brow furrowed. "You're not going to disappear again, are you?" I smiled, despite the weight of the question. "No, I don't plan to disappear anymore." "Good," Emma said, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips, "because I don't think I could survive that again." There was a lightness to her words, and I could see the walls she'd built around herself slowly starting to come down. We were still getting there, still navigating the painful history, but this was progress. It was slow, but it was real. We sat in silence for a while, the night air cool around us, but the fire inside the cabin warming our bones. The quiet felt different now, less oppressive, and more like something we could share, a peace that had been hard-won. "How's Pete doing?" I asked, breaking the silence, shifting the conversation. Emma smiled at the change in subject. He's doing all right. Jane's still working at the diner, of course. She told me she'll keep the coffee warm for you whenever you're ready to come back. Yeah, I might do that, I said, taking another sip of my beer. I miss the quiet there. Not much happens in this town, but that's what makes it peaceful. David nodded. I think we all need some quiet sometimes. I know I do, Emma agreed. It's strange, but I've been craving that calm too. Just some space, to think, to breathe. We sat there for a while longer, just watching the stars, the fireflies flickering in the distance, the hum of the night wrapping around us like a blanket. The air was thick with possibility, small but growing, and in that moment I realized something. There was no real finish line to this journey. There was no neat and tidy conclusion to the story we were living. We were just here, together, trying to be better, trying to fix what was broken. It was enough. For now. Finally, Emma stood up, stretching her arms above her head. I should get going. David's got work in the morning. Yeah, I've got an early start, David added, rising from his chair as well. But I'm glad we did this. Glad we could be here. I stood with them, my legs stiff from sitting too long. I'm glad too. Emma hugged me again, a tight squeeze that said more than words could. I love you, Dad. I love you too, I said, my voice thick. I'm proud of you. David clapped me on the back again, hard enough to jolt me forward, but I didn't mind it this time. See you soon, old man, he said, grinning. Yeah, I said, smiling back. I'll be here. They left together, walking down the gravel path toward their car, leaving me standing alone on the porch. I watched them go, feeling the weight of everything that had changed in the past year. Everything that had shifted, both within me and between us. I stayed there, watching the stars, feeling the cool night air on my skin, knowing that this was just the beginning. There was more to come, more to figure out, but I wasn't running anymore, and that meant something. It meant a lot, and maybe, just maybe, things would turn out the way we all hoped they would. In time. 2 weeks later, I called Bill. I want to change the will again, I said. Frank, you just changed it 6 months ago. I know, I'm changing it again. He sighed. What do you want to do? Split everything between Emma and David, equal shares, and set up the scholarship fund in Karen's name. 50,000 to start. No conditions? No conditions. What changed your mind? They showed up. They kept showing up, every week for a year, phone calls, visits, real conversations. They proved they meant it. I'm glad, Frank, really. Me too. The new will was simple, clean, no games, no tests, just a father leaving his estate to his children because they'd earned it, not by being born, not by guilt, by actually being there. I signed the papers in Bill's office. He notarized them, filed them, sent me copies. You're a good man, Frank, he said as I was leaving. Debatable. Not to me. I drove back to the cabin feeling lighter than I had in years. The sun dipped lower behind the pines, casting long shadows across the cabin's wooden floor as we sat there, glasses in hand. The evening felt peaceful, quiet, like something finally settling into place after a long, restless journey. The weight that had once pressed down on my chest, of guilt, of doubt, of what-ifs, had begun to ease, little by little, over the last year and a half. In some ways, it had never fully gone away, but now it felt manageable, more like a part of the past than something still controlling me. Outside, the night grew darker, the first stars starting to blink into existence above the treetops. The fire we'd built earlier crackled softly in the stove, the faint orange glow a reminder of the warmth that filled the cabin, both literal and figurative. This place had become home in a way it hadn't been before. It was more than just a refuge. It was a place where things were rebuilt, step by step. We lingered at the table for a while, the conversations drifting from one topic to another, always comfortable, always natural. At some point, Rachel excused herself to help with cleaning up, leaving David and Emma and me to talk. I watched them, the two of them, so different now than they had been just a couple of years ago. David had grown into someone I could see myself in ways I hadn't fully realized before. He still had his quick humor, but there was something more now, something more thoughtful. He had taken the lessons from his past mistakes and slowly begun to reshape himself. And Emma had become a force in her own right. The uncertainty that had clouded her eyes when I'd left was gone now, replaced with something steadier, more assured. She had a confidence in her voice, in the way she carried herself. I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride, but I didn't say it, didn't need to. We'd all been through a lot, and the scars were still there, hidden beneath the surface, but we were getting better at living with them. I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, not all at once, but it was something real, something worth holding on to. David leaned back in his chair, glancing at me with a smile that tugged at something old, something familiar. "You sure you're good, Dad? No more big changes coming, right?" I chuckled, shaking my head. "No plans for any more disappearing acts, if that's what you mean." He raised an eyebrow, a smirk on his lips. "Good. Because I don't know if I could handle another year of you ghosting us." Emma shot him a look, but there was no real heat in it. Just affection, just the kind of teasing that felt like home. "Leave him alone, David. He's allowed to have his moments." David shrugged, still smiling. "I know, but if he pulls another stunt like that, I'm sending Rachel after him next time. She's a little more persuasive than we are." Rachel, who had returned with a plate of cookies, laughed softly, shaking her head. "I'd be happy to help. You just give me a call." "You'd be the last person I'd want showing up at my door," I said, grinning at her. "You've got a way of making people think twice." She grinned back. "Good. It's my specialty." We all laughed, the sound light and easy, the way it used to be, the way it should have always been. Later, after the dishes were done and the evening was winding down, we all gathered outside on the porch. The night was cool now, the breeze soft but sharp enough to make me reach for the sweater I'd left on the chair. The stars were brighter than they had been in ages, each one standing out clear against the deep black sky. Rachel was the first to break the silence. "It's kind of beautiful up here," she said, looking up at the sky. "I can see why you like it." I nodded, taking a deep breath. "Yeah, it's the kind of place that forces you to slow down, to breathe." David leaned back in his chair, his hands behind his head, looking out at the horizon. "It's like a different world up here. I mean, I've been out here a bunch, but it always feels new, you know?" Emma smiled, glancing at him. "You've always been good at finding peace in strange places." David looked at me then, his eyes softer than usual. "We used to have that, didn't we, Dad? Peace." I met his gaze, surprised by the depth in his voice. "Yeah, we did." There was a long pause, a comfortable silence stretching between us. The only sound was the rustle of the leaves in the trees, the occasional chirp of a night bird, the hum of the world continuing on in its own rhythm. But it was quieter here, calmer. David broke the silence again, quieter this time, as if speaking to himself more than anyone else. "I think I finally get why you left. At least part of it. I used to be so angry with you for disappearing, for putting all that space between us. But—" he hesitated, his words searching for something. "But I think I understand now. It wasn't about us. It was about you needing to find something that wasn't just about being a dad, or being the guy who always had to fix everything." Emma's voice was soft when she spoke. "I think we all needed that time, even if it hurt. Maybe especially because it hurt." David nodded slowly, looking at me again. "I know we didn't get it before, but we're getting it now. All of us. I think I'm finally starting to understand what you were doing, why you left. And I guess I get why you had to come back too." "I came back because I wasn't done," I said quietly. "Not with you, not with this." The fire in the stove inside flickered through the window, casting an amber glow on the porch. I took another sip of my beer, looking at the small group around me. It was the part where we could just be together, where we didn't have to talk about the past to understand each other, where we could find peace even after everything had been broken. I looked at my children, at David and Emma, both older now, their lives in motion, but still somehow tied to me, to this place, to what we were trying to rebuild. "Thanks," I said quietly, the words simple but heavy with meaning, "for coming back, for giving me a chance." Emma smiled at me, her eyes warm. "We're your family, Dad. You don't have to say thanks for that." Rachel spoke up then, her voice steady. "You've both worked hard for this. It's not just about what was lost. It's about what you're building now." I looked at her calm demeanor, at the way she fit so easily into our mess, into our story. "Yeah," I said, "I guess it is." We spent the rest of the evening in that quiet, easy peace, talking, laughing, letting the past stay where it belonged, and allowing the present to just be. It wasn't perfect. It was never going to be perfect. But it was enough. It was real. As the night deepened and the stars shifted across the sky, I finally felt like I was truly here again. Not just existing, but living. For the first time in a long time, it felt like I was part of something I'd fought for, something worth holding on to. "To family," I said again, the words carrying a weight that felt new but also comforting. "To family," they echoed back. And outside, the world kept turning, but inside the cabin, everything felt just right. 2 years after I left, Jason showed up at the cabin. I was chopping wood when I saw a car coming up the drive. Different car than before. Older, dented. Jason got out. He looked different. Thinner, grayer, worn down by life. "Frank," he said, staying by his car. I set down the axe. "Jason, can we talk?" "About what?" "About everything." I gestured to the porch. We sat in the chairs there, not too close. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. "I just wanted to apologize." "For what specifically?" "For all of it. For treating you like garbage. For using Emma. For the gambling. For being a selfish, arrogant piece of work." "That's a start. I've been in therapy, going to GA meetings, trying to get my life together. Good for you. I know you hate me." "I don't hate you, Jason. I don't think about you enough to hate you." He flinched. "Fair enough." "Why are you really here?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I'm filing for bankruptcy, losing everything, and before it all went away, I wanted to do one thing right." "What's that?" "Apologize to you, to Emma, to David, to everyone I hurt." "Have you talked to Emma?" "She won't see me." "Can you blame her?" "No." We sat in silence. Wind rustled through the trees. "Jason," I said, "I'm going to give you some advice. Take it or leave it." "Okay. Stop apologizing and start living differently. Words don't mean anything if your actions don't match. You want forgiveness? Earn it. Not from Emma or from me, but from yourself." "How do I do that?" "You already started. Therapy, meetings, getting help. Keep doing that every day for the rest of your life." "It's hard. It's supposed to be." He nodded, stood up. "Thanks for hearing me out." "Jason." "Yeah?" "Don't come back here. Whatever you need to do it somewhere else. This is my place, my family's place. You're not part of that anymore." "I understand." He got in his car and drove away. I went back to chopping wood. 5 years after I left, I'm still at the cabin. Emma lives in the city, running her consulting business. She's doing well. Really well. She visits every other week, sometimes with Sarah, a woman she met at a conference. Sarah's an architect, smart and funny, and she makes Emma laugh. David married Rachel last fall. Small wedding, just family and close friends. I walked him down the aisle since his mother refused to come. Best day of my life. They bought a house an hour away. David still comes for Sunday dinners, now bringing Rachel and their dog, a golden retriever named Scout. Linda sends cards on holidays, generic cards with printed messages. I don't respond. Neither do the kids. She made her choices. Now she lives with them. The scholarship fund has helped 48 students so far. First-generation college kids who need a break. Every year, Emma and David and I review applications together. We pick the ones who remind us of ourselves. Kids who work hard, who don't give up, who just need someone to believe in them. Karen would be proud. Pete comes by once a week. We play chess, drink whiskey, complain about getting old. He beat cancer last year. Tough old bastard. Jean from the diner brings me pie every Thursday, says I'm too skinny. I tell her I'm fine. She brings pie anyway. I'm 68 now. My back hurts in the morning. My knees creak when I stand. I need reading glasses. But I'm not alone anymore. Last Sunday, we were all at the cabin. Emma and Sarah, David and Rachel, Pete, Jean, a full house. We cooked a big meal. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. Rachel made a salad. Sarah brought wine. Emma baked bread. After dinner, David pulled out his guitar. We sat on the porch watching the sunset while he played old folk songs. Emma sang along. Rachel harmonized. Sarah took photos. Pete leaned over and said, "You did good, Frank." "Did what?" "This. All of this. Your family. Your life. You did good." "Took me long enough." "Better late than never." I looked at my children, really looked at them. They were happy, healthy, whole. And they were here, not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but because they wanted to be. That text message is still on my phone. I never deleted it. Please heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't let them go to waste. 5 years ago, that message broke something in me. Made me realize I'd been living on scraps. Emotional leftovers. The bare minimum of love and attention. I'd been wasting away, waiting for someone to notice. So I stopped waiting, stopped accepting scraps, stopped making myself small to fit into spaces where I wasn't wanted, and something amazing happened. The people who mattered showed up. The people who didn't. Life got simpler, clearer, better. I didn't let anything go to waste. Not my dignity, not my self-respect, not my chance at a real relationship with my kids. I just stopped accepting less than I deserved. Emma came over and sat on the arm of my chair. "What are you thinking about?" "That text, the one from Jason. The leftover text?" "Yeah. Do you regret how it all went down?" I looked at her, at David, at the life we'd built from the ruins of the old one. "Not even a little bit." She kissed my forehead. "Good, neither do I." The sun dipped below the mountains. Stars began to appear. Someone refilled my glass. David played another song, and I sat there, surrounded by people who loved me, in a place I'd chosen, living a life that was finally, truly mine. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 3 weeks ago, Emma called me. "Dad, I need to tell you something." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I ran into Jason yesterday." My hand tightened on the phone. "Where?" "Coffee shop downtown. He was with his sponsor from GA. They were having a meeting." "How did he look?" "Better, healthier. He's been sober for 4 years now. Has a job. Normal job. Nothing fancy. He's rebuilding. Good for him." "He asked about you." "What did you tell him?" "That you're happy. That we're all happy. That we figured it out." "What did he say?" "He said he was glad. That you were right. About everything." I didn't respond. "Dad, I know this is weird, but I think I forgive him." "That's your choice to make." "Are you okay with that?" Emma, you're 41 years old. You don't need my permission to forgive someone. I know, but I wanted you to know. Thank you for telling me. After we hung up, I sat on the porch and thought about forgiveness. I didn't forgive Jason, probably never would, but I didn't hate him either. He was just a man who'd made terrible choices and was trying to fix them. That was between him and himself. My job wasn't to hate him or forgive him. My job was to protect what mattered. My family, my peace, my hard-won happiness, and I was doing that just fine. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. Everyone came to the cabin. Emma and Sarah, David and Rachel and Scout, Pete and Jean, Bill and his wife. A dozen people crowded into the small space. We cooked all day, turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and green beans and cranberry sauce and 3 different pies. The cabin smelled like heaven. Before dinner, David asked me to say grace. I'm not religious, never have been, but I stood at the head of the table and looked at all these people. I'm not good at this, I said, but I'll try. 5 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything. My family, my purpose, my place in the world. I was wrong. I hadn't lost anything. I looked at Emma, to my daughter, who found the courage to start over. I looked at David, to my son, who chose to see the truth instead of the comfortable lie. I looked at everyone else, to the family we choose, to the people who show up, to the second chances we give ourselves. To the people who show up, Emma repeated. To second chances, David added. Everyone raised their glasses. We ate, we laughed, we told stories. Sarah taught us a card game from her childhood. Pete told terrible jokes. Scout begged for scraps under the table. It was perfect. Messy and loud and chaotic and perfect. After everyone left, I cleaned up the kitchen. Emma stayed to help. Dad, she said, drying the last plate, do you remember what you said to me that night, at the coffee shop with Jason? Which part? You said love isn't enough without respect. I remember. I thought you were being harsh, but you were right. Love without respect is just emptiness pretending to be something. Where's this coming from? Sarah asked me to move in with her. And I'm scared. What if I mess it up again? What if I'm not good at this? Are you asking my permission or my advice? Advice. Then here it is. Don't make yourself small for anyone. Don't accept scraps. Don't settle for less than you deserve. And if she makes you feel like you have to, walk away. What if she doesn't? What if she's good to me? Then be good to her. Show up. Be present. Do the work. She hugged me. I love you, Dad. I love you too. She left around 10. I locked up the cabin, banked the fire, got ready for bed. Before turning off the light, I pulled up that text message one more time. Please heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't let them go to waste. 5 years. Felt like a lifetime ago. I deleted it. Didn't need it anymore. Didn't need the reminder of who I used to be or what I used to accept. I knew who I was now. A father, a friend, a man who'd learned the hardest lesson of all. You teach people how to treat you. For years, I'd taught my family that I'd accept anything, any crumb, any leftover, any scrap of attention, and they'd believed me, until I stopped believing it myself. The pain, the anger, the loneliness, the slow, hard work of rebuilding. Worth it. Every bit of it. Because on the other side of that pain was this, a life I'd chosen, people who valued me, relationships built on respect and effort and actual love. Not the performance of love, not the idea of love, but the real thing. The messy, difficult, beautiful real thing. I closed my eyes and slept better than I had in 30 years.